guys, Chastity and Greg here, back to break down Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 5, Die Trying.
Now before we do that, of course, warning, spoilers ahead. Go watch this episode first, then come on back here. Let's do this.
Alright, so the episode kicks off with one of Saru's first captain's logs, and they're on their way to Federation and Starfleet headquarters, which are now one in the same. And that's thanks to Adira, who pulled that information from Senna Tal's memories.
Now the question remains whether Discovery is going to be welcomed at all there once they get over there. How much has the Federation changed in 930 years?
And Saru says that he trusts that what matters most will have endured.
Now, Burnham tells Saru that she would like to know more info about her mom after she figures out stuff about the burn. As this episode goes along and we find out more about the Federation, it seems like her mom's gonna come into play here, I think, through something else that's happening, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in the episode.
Yeah, so for context, Dr. Gabrielle Burnham's status is still unknown because Terralesium didn't know who she was. In the Season 2 episode Perpetual Infinity, we saw her get sucked into a wormhole along with the Red Angel suit, but we have no idea where she went.
Next, the Discovery arrives at the Federation headquarters, which is masked by a distortion field sustained by every ship within it. As they enter, they see a fleet of impressive futuristic ships.
Tilly notes that some of the hulls are organic and some are comprised of holographic containment walls. So although this is only a few minutes of dialogue, I feel like the writing team really had to think hard about how they would evolve these starships after 900 years. Like, they were probably just sticking a bunch of ideas on the wall and be like, that's believable. Oh, we can do this to that. We can do this. We can make, like, the Constitution huge. Like, that must have been fun, but must have taken a lot of research.
And as they move closer, they can also see a flying rainforest. It's very Halo-like, at least my interpretation of it when I was looking at that. It's cool. I'm sure we're going to go down there at some point as well. Also, this scene gives me heavy Star Trek, the motion picture vibes where Kirk and Scott are doing a flyby over the refitted Enterprise. So I wish it went as long as that scene was. Obviously, that was a movie. They can't do the same thing here. They time constraints, but it felt like they were going for that. Yeah, money too, of course.
And in a surprise appearance, somehow the USS Voyager is here. It has the registry number NCC 74656J, which means this may be the 11th Federation starship to bear the name Voyager.
10 generations of evolution?
11. Love to hear those stories.
I hope to see it.
I hope we do, because they basically shoved it in our face. It's not just like a passing Easter egg. They really set some purposeful time on it, and that would be really annoying if they just never talked about it again.
I don't know. Hey, I used to do reviews for Castle Rock. They did that all the time. So I hope it's not just the big Easter egg. At some point, we go down there and see the ship and see who's running it. But for now, it seems like I'm going to say it's just an Easter egg, but we'll see.
I want to hear the stories.
From there, Discovery hails Federation HQ to report for duty. They are scanned and docked remotely, and Starfleet's request is for the captain, first officer, and Tal. The scan somehow picked up Adira's symbiote.
And most importantly, the crew finally has a moment of joy and excitement, just genuine happiness, and that's nice. Burnham, Saru, and Adira meet Starfleet's Commander-in-Chief, Charles Vance. He's played by Oded Fehr, who you may recognize from The Mummy and The Mummy Returns.
And Resident Evil. And I've always, and I'm not the only one who always wanted him to play Tony Stark back in the day. Obviously, it went to Robert Downey Jr., and the rest is history, but still, I was always a big fan of his, and I'm so happy he's in Star Trek. It's like he's come home now. I just hope he's here forever. Also, for conspiracy theorists out there, the name Vance was also the Captain Vance for the Kobayashi Maru simulation, so I doubt it, and I don't believe it one bit, but if for those conspiracy theorists out there who think something weird's going on with Discovery and this new timeline with the Federation, maybe that could be a clue. Doubt it.
From Vance, we learned that contact with Kaminar has been limited, but Kaminar joined the Federation. Vance is also alerted about the Emerald Chain, which is the Andorian Orion Syndicate, appearing in the Sigma Draconis system.
From there, the Admiral says the scan identified Adira as Senna Tal. Adira gives Vance a sweet message from Senna, but then Vance makes it clear that he and Adira are not familiar and sends Adira to medical for diagnostics.
Next, Vance is told that sickbay is overflowing with refugees that they're taking care of and that they have 4 hours left at best. They're being affected by prions, which are a type of infectious microscopic particle composed of proteins. There's no cure, but they're not contagious.
So right from there, Michael starts to jump in front of everyone here a little bit. It's a little cringy, I think, for me, for
Classic
TNG
Michael
fans out there.
know-it-all, yeah.
Yeah, she's doing a little too much here. I'm sorry, but she's stepping over her captain. Vance and Saru are like, what are you doing? That said, I love the way that Oded Fehr is playing this role. The Admiral, again, every Admiral's a little bit of a hard nose here, so it's going to happen with Vance too, but I just love the way he's playing it off. And also, he's just such a smooth character here. I love him. With that said, Michael gets knocked back a few times in this episode. I always think of the time when Worf stepped over Data when he was in command, and so he had to sit him down and talk to him, which is always a classic scene.
I would prefer to remain at my current post.
Then I expect you to conform to the guidelines I have laid out.
Aye, sir.
Next, Vance asks about the Red Angel suit, and Burnham said it was programmed to self-destruct. Burnham tells him about the sphere and its 100,000 years of data. And while all of this is going on, there's an AI observing them, and it says that they can't lie to it.
Okay, so that's gonna come back around later. And the way he just immediately says, "You can't lie to me," that will come back around some point later this season. But for now, we're seeing this new AI, which is all around the ship. Nearly everyone's either a holo or some kind of AI system that we see later in this episode as well. Saru asked about what remains of the Federation. Vance says that there are 38 member worlds that they are aware of, down from 350 at its peak. And they're having difficulty finding any others that may be out there. Vance says there's no information in their database about the Red Angel or Control, and that Discovery was destroyed with no mention of a spore drive. So Saru assumes that the Starfleet operation procedures would have erased any files related to Discovery. And of course they did under Section 31.
Vance tells him about the 30th Century War to uphold the Temporal Accords. This was an interstellar treaty outlawing time travel to prevent anyone from the past changing the future and vice versa, and that their presence here is a crime. He can't trust them without evidence. He says he'll be requisitioning Discovery for analysis and retrofit and reassigning the crew.
So back on Discovery, Saru talks to Burnham and says they need to follow this by the books here, go by protocol, prime directive, let's think about all of this. While Burnham's like, no, we got to go get these things, we got to go get the logs so we can, figure out where the Kili were and go from there and try to, fix this whole situation, give them the antidote. And Saru just looks at her. I love the way he just tells her, what do you mean grab the logs? What are you talking about?
Get our hands on?
Have you not learned your lesson by now? Like, after all you've
No.
been through, after
Not at all.
the mutiny.
Burnham could have told, I have not learned a thing. Let's go. Let's break into Federation headquarters and let's go figure out what's going on. That's not going to happen.
We have
It's
to
not
gain
gonna
their
work that way.
trust, Michael. Ugh. I feel like Vance has a very good handle on the situation and isn't being too hard. He's being firm and making sure that they stay in their lane and just, of course, going by protocol and the way that he should. Because if I were in his shoes, I don't know if I'd trust them either. But he's also giving them a little bit of leeway to help out.
A tiny bit. I feel like we're going into DS9 territory. If they step too far out, he's gonna have to slap some people around. So we'll see.
Saru delivers the bad news to the crew that they're breaking them up. They all get debriefed by AI. So we get a fun little montage with Culber and Reno and Tilly, and they talked about all the ridiculous things out of context that they've been through, like Culber being murdered, but he's cool with his murderer now, and Tilly having to dress like a dominatrix in the Terran universe. A lot of fun callbacks to previous seasons.
From there, Burnham and Saru approach Lieutenant Willa about getting the roster of planets visited by the Kili, and Burnham reminds her that they have a spore drive and they can travel anywhere in the blink of an eye.
Meanwhile, the AI tries to question Giorgio as a wild David Cronenberg appears, observing. If you don't recognize his face, you'll know the films he's directed, like The Fly and Scanners.
Of course, he has many guest roles appearances on screen as well, including, for whatever reason, Jason X.
The AI notes that this is Giorgio's second universe, third timeline. Then Giorgio starts blinking at their harmonic rate to shut down the AI hollows.
Meanwhile, the Kili refugees are not doing well. Vance says they believe they became ill on Erna. Saru and Burnham hypothesize that they scavenged there, and whatever they ate was mutated, and they need a healthy sample of the protein ingested, but it doesn't exist on Erna.
And for some reason, Burnham pulls this information out of her hat about the USS Tikhov, and how it holds all of the seeds of basically every single
Cool
civilization. That's very useful. I didn't know about that, but that's great. So they said they just need to find out if that still exists. Vance says it does, and it's very far away.
But they have a spore drive, so they can jump over there in seconds. There's a little bit of a tussle between Vance and Saru and Michael, where Vance says, we're just going to put a whole new crew on there along with Stamets to have him run the thing, and they're going to go and do it. But after a few moments, Michael assures him that they're the ones that can do the job here and get it done fast. Saru offers to stay behind while Lieutenant Willa joins the Discovery.
And Vance says that Burnham better do it fast, otherwise it's gonna come down on Saru's head. So the clock's ticking, they've got 3 hours left to retrieve the sample and create an antidote. Burnham warns Willa to hold on to something as they make the jump.
Black alert.
They arrive at the coordinates and see an ion storm in range, but no Tikhov. The ship must be in it, and they have to pull it out of the storm. They find it running on auxiliary power. As they're being hit by blast from the storm, Detmer is affected by her PTSD, but manages to keep it together. Discovery is able to lock onto the Tikhov and pull the ship out.
It turns out that over the last 500 years, each planet of the Federation has taken turns keeping watch over the seed vault. And sure enough, Barzan was the last to keep watch. And of course, Non is Barzan, and she's surprised to learn that the Barzans have joined the Federation.
Also to note, the Tikhov atmosphere has been attuned to Barzan biology, so now finally Non can be herself, and we see what her eyes really look like, and she's able to breathe freely. Burnham beams onto the Tikhov with Culber and Non, and there are plants everywhere. Non says the Barzan atmosphere lends itself to more accelerated plant growth. A life sign blinks on and off, and something appears to be following them.
Meanwhile, Georgiou is captivated by Cronenberg's badge that can project a Minority Report-like interface. So he gives her the badge, and she immediately steps on it and plays with the fragments. Now, in small talk, we learned that his birthday falls on April 5th. I don't know if it actually does, if he's just doing this to spark some kind of conversation between the two, which could be the case. In the Mirror Universe, April 5th, 2063 is considered a holiday as it was the first contact between Earth and a Vulcan ship. While in the Prime Universe, the meeting went peacefully, but in the Mirror Universe, Zephram Cochrane shoots the Vulcan greeters and takes control of the ship by force, as seen in the Enterprise episode In a Mirror Darkly. Now, he's fascinated with the Terran Empire and the species as a whole. Now, his glasses are way more than a fashion statement. As you can obviously see, he's doing something with them, and he's either recording Georgiou's conversation or something even more devious. But for now, it seems like at least he's recording the entire conversation through those glasses. Who knows what else what his goal is here with Georgiou, but something weird happens with her here, and he triggers her, I think, when he tells her that the Terran Empire fell a long time ago.
Yeah, there hasn't been a single Mirror Universe crossover in 500 years, so Georgiou is all alone. He also suspects that there's someone on Discovery that she cares about. And there is, it's Burnham.
Back on the USS Tikhov, Non, Culber, and Michael discover an old family album projection currently playing on the ship. In addition to a strange coincidence that the Barzan mother is humming the very same melody that Adira was performing in the last episode. And this is where Non starts to grow homesick and nostalgic.
It's noted that the Barzans didn't have many resources and were dependent on others for generations. In TNG, we learned that they were technologically only moderately advanced, and they did not have manned space travel. Moments later, Non goes through personal logs for Dr. Addis and discovers something terrible happened to him and his family during the ion storm. Culber and Non find his family in cryostasis chambers, but they're already dead. Addis is still trying to save them and find a cure.
Meanwhile, Michael is beamed into the seed vault, but she needs a code to gain access to the seeds. Dr. Addis immediately attacks her and tells her he needs the seeds for his family before he starts to phase out.
Michael believes Addis is out of phase somehow. With the help of Reno, Tilly, and Stamets, they figure out that the Tikhov was hit with a CME, coronal mass ejection, a massive radioactive proton storm. The CME occurred while Addis was in mid-phase while beaming into the seed vault.
Well, it's not a one-to-one here. I can't help but think of the episode of TNG where Geordi and Ro are out of phase with normal matter and energy in the episode The Next Phase. It's a great little classic Ronald D. Moore written episode, and I have a feeling there's some motivation here with that one. There's a little bit, it mirrors it just a little bit.
Data, do you see us? Of course.
The crew is able to fix the problem and beam Addis into the vault. After a tough conversation with Burnham, Dr. Addis agrees to help Discovery and unlocks the vault. The password was his daughter's, named after 2 Barzan moons. The vault is activated by Non, and she gets the seeds they need.
Meanwhile, Dr. Addis refused to leave his family on the ship, and Culber warns him that he'll die if he doesn't get medical treatment for the CME hit. Addis doesn't care. So Culber takes the seeds back to Discovery to work on the antidote, and Non chooses to stay on board the ship. She's going to make sure Addis and his family get home for a proper burial, and will continue the Barzan watch of the ship.
So then Michael and Nan have a very emotional goodbye, and they hope their paths cross someday. I'm pretty sure they will. And then Michael beams off and leaves Nan behind.
Back at Starfleet HQ, Admiral Vance notes that there are no more 5-year missions. The Federation can't afford it.
Burnham and Saru plead with Vance to keep the team and the sphere data together. Vance seems unsure about Detmer, but he agrees to keep the team together, which is nice.
Now, this is the moment I've been waiting on, I think, since the beginning of season 2, where we found out that, it looks like they're probably going to go off into the far-off future and start a whole new story and timeline. It looks like this is the jumping off point now, as we now know that Vance is going to be calling the shots, and he's going to have them go wherever he wants them to go for their missions going forward here on the series. The burn will be there, but that's in the background, as he says there are many conspiracy theories of what happened with the burn, and that's not their big concern right now with the Federation, so he needs them to focus on what's happening now and not think of anything in the past anymore. So here we go.
I'm excited too. I hope we get to see like this playground of the future and how the writers handle that, and they get to just make stuff up right now, and that's super fun, and that's what I want to see. I'm really not that interested in like what happened with the burn. I just want them to move forward.
I know.
Forward, unite the Federation. Don't care what happened. That's in the past. Past is behind you. Let's just bring them all together. So then finally the Kili are given the antidote. Next, Burnham talks to Willa about the melody that the Barzan family was singing and finds it so strange that so many people know a version of that music.
This feels like a lot of what they did with the Red Angel in the last season, where little pieces are going to start to connect together. They're way too much of a coincidence for it to all transpire the way it does in each episode. So it might be like, again, the Red Angel, where every location they went to, the Red Angel was there. Or I feel like now on these missions they go on, you may hear that melody or sound, that song again. And I'm going to say maybe it has something to do with Michael's mom. I'm just happy they're now going off on new journeys and new adventures now. So I'm just going to take it as it is. And we have Oded Fehr along for the ride. So I'm just thrilled. And Cronenberg. David Cronenberg's on the show for some reason. I love it.
Speaking of Cronenberg, it seems like he broke JoJo or something. She's completely frozen in time when Burnham approaches her for conversation. So what is going on here?
Maybe dealing with a little bit of not survivor's remorse, but more of just like she's having this anxiety go through her system that she is the only one now.
The last Terran. Now onto things we noticed and Easter eggs. As Discovery approaches Federation HQ, Nielsen says,
"Detecting neutronium alloy fibers, this used to be theoretical."
Neutronium is a rare mineral found in neutron star cores. In the Voyager episode Phage, the Voyager crew encountered an artificial asteroid composed of a neutronium alloy. And in the episode Think Tank, the Voyager encountered a group of highly intelligent aliens whose vessel was composed of a neutronium alloy. The Federation was never able to produce neutronium artificially as of 2375.
OO is amazed by a new Constitution-class ship.
Is that a new Constitution? I bet it can sleep a crew of 1,000, no, 2,000.
Now, the USS Enterprise was a Constitution-class ship. They were the premier frontline Starfleet vessels in the second half of the 23rd century, capable of operating on 5-year mission cycles with minimal outside support.
Detmer comments on the new ship's detached nacelles. Nacelles on warp-capable ships house the warp coils of the vessel's warp drive. Because the radiation produced by the nacelles was harmful to living beings, perhaps this is why having them detached would be an advancement.
As they approach Federation HQ, Disco passes a ship called the USS Nog. This is a nod to the Deep Space Nine character Nog, the first Ferengi to enter Starfleet and serve aboard Deep Space Nine.
In the shot of Burnham, Saru, and Adira entering Federation HQ, we see a note in yellow about a Kazon clan forum on Talax. The Kazon were an aggressive nomadic species who served as antagonists during the first 2 seasons of Voyager, first shown in the series premiere, Caretaker. Talax is the Talaxian homeworld located in the Delta Quadrant. Neelix from Star Trek Voyager was a Talaxian.
A Starfleet officer tells Vance that Andorian and Orion vessels were found in the Sigma Draconis system. In 2268, the USS Enterprise entered the system to search for Commander Spock's brain after an alien steals it in the TOS episode Spock's Brain.
The Kili refugees' diagnosis shows that they are being affected by prions. Prions are a type of infectious microscopic particle composed of proteins. In DS9, Julian Bashir was studying prions in the year 2373.
In this episode, we get the USS Tikhov. Now, this is a tribute to G.A. Tikhov, the Soviet astronomer who was a pioneer in astrobiology and considered to be the father of astrobotany. The real-life crater Tikhov on the Moon, the Martian crater Tikhov, and the asteroid 2251 Tikhov are all named in his honor.
Alright, that's it for this episode, but be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next breakdown of episode 6.
Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comment section down below. I really like it. I like where we're going with this story so far, and we'll be back here next week. Bye-bye.